Hey everybody, so today what I want to show you and what I've been getting a lot of, questions over is how to paint realistic looking water droplets. Um, so that's what I'm going to be teaching today. I'm going to do some on just plain white paper, and then I put down a layer of blue to show you what it would look like on top of color. So this is actually still kind of wet, so I'm going to start with the white side. This is just plain old paper. It's 300 pound, so it doesn't need stretching. So what I'm going to start off with is just a little bit of black. And water droplets aren't perfect circles, so I'm just going to kind of, put a little blob down. And then I'm going to go in with some gouache, white gouache. And I'm going to do the bottom half in white. It's hard to see because I am working on white paper, but I promise that you do need the white. And then after you put both of those colors down, you're just going to kind of blend them into one another, but not so much that it creates one single color. You want to be able to see the transition from white to gray. And that's just the first layer. We're going to go back in and do, some more layering in with it. I'm actually going to go back in and put a little bit more dark and blend that down into the white. All right. And as I wait for that to dry, I'm gonna just do a couple more. And like I said, I mean, water droplets, they're not perfect circles. They'll look more realistic if they're not perfect circles. And with these three, I actually started with just water. So you can start with paint on your brush, or you can start by just putting a glob of water down first, whichever you prefer. Now I'm going in with my white on the bottom and blend up into the black. Make a gray transition. Right, and I'm making different sizes, because usually when you see water droplets, they're all different shapes, different sizes, So, and I'm making all of the dark parts on the same side of the water droplets, because usually when you have a light source, it's typically from one side, so all of the water droplets would have the same side be light and then the opposite side be dark. So, all right, now this is dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch to a smaller brush. This is just a tiny detail brush. It was $1 from Amazon, so you don't have to use any expensive brushes to make this work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath the white side, the lightest side of the bubble, and I'm going to go underneath it, all underneath the white part, and then I'm going to carefully bring it up the side just a little bit. You want like a really thin line up here, because this is going to help create the shadow and create the 3D effect that you're looking for. But if you make this part too thick, then it's not going to look right. It's going to look like I don't know, a wonky shadow, and you don't want that. All right, and then I'm going to just take a little bit of water on my brush, just a tiny bit, and I'm going to try to blend the edge of this black out just a little bit. I'm not adding any more paint, I'm just blending what I have with a little bit of water. And you don't want to blend it out too much because water droplets are right on the surface of what you're painting, so it's not going to have a huge shadow. It's going to have a really small dark shadow to it. So that's what it's going to look like. I'm going to go ahead and do the other ones real quick. Alright, so now my first one is pretty much dry. I'm just going back in with a little bit of extra water, and I'm trying to blend out any of the watermarks that I see. Right. Alright, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto the the droplet part, and right where the black starts, I'm going to put a very white area, like bright white. So how I do that is I take my gouache, which this is the gouache that I'm using, Winsor & Newton. So I'm going to take it straight from the tube. So it's wet paint. It's not dried. I'm going to take the straight paint, and I'm going to go on the very edge of the droplet, and this is going to give it a highlight effect. We're trying to go for a 3D look, and by giving it all these highlights and shadows, that's going to create the effect that you're looking for. So I'm going to try to keep that edge as white as I can, and I'm going to slowly blend the other edge of the white into what I already have, so there's a good gradation. Oops. All right, so as you can see, that really makes it pop compared to the ones that I haven't done it on. All right, so next I'm gonna do the other ones, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so my last section of the video cut off, and all I really did for that section was add these little touches of highlight. So I went in with my gouache, my white gouache, just straight out of the tube, and I just put a dot line, and now I'm just going to do a couple of little extra finishing touches, you know, kind of smooth out the edges a little bit, and then I'm going to start on the blue side, show you how to do that. Okay, now we're gonna do the blue side. So I have a brush with just water on it, and I'm gonna do the same thing that I did down here. I'm going to just kind of block out, you know, a couple of random drops, different sizes. All right. Then I'm going to go in with a dark blue color. It's I can't tell if it's indigo or if it's Payne's gray. I think it's indigo, but you know, any dark blue would work. So I'm gonna go in with that on the top, just like I did with the bottoms with the black. Gonna go in on the tops of each of the spots. And then on the bottom of each of them, I'm gonna do the same thing I did down here. I'm gonna put some white, and then I'm gonna blend the white up into the blue. This is pretty much the same thing as I did with the ones on the white paper. The only difference really is the color. Instead of using black, and I actually might go in at the very end and use some black for the really darks. We'll see how it goes, but I'm just gonna keep at this. I'm trying to blend, but you want to blend them together, but obviously you still want the darks and the white to show through. And with this, you also want the background color to show through too, so you don't want to put it on too heavily. You want to make sure that you still see that the background color. All right, I'm going to finish this up and we'll move on to the next step. All right, so I put a little bit more white down, blending it up, making sure that you can actually see some white. You want to be able to see some white, because that'll really help it pop off the page. Okay, so next we're gonna do the bottom shadow underneath the white. After it dries, after this part dries, I will start doing that. All right, so now that's dry. I'm gonna go back in with my dark blue, not black, my dark blue, and I'm gonna go underneath the white side of each of the droplets, and it's gonna be a little bit thicker at the very bottom, and then, as I said before, once you get to the sides, you want to make it as thin as possible. And one way you can do that is getting a really tiny brush. I mean, even this is a little bit thick for doing that. but you could get a really, really tiny brush like this one. Or what you can do is you can take your brush and you can try to flatten it as thin as you can get, and see that tip? I mean, you want to be careful not to flare the tip out, but that'll make a really, really fine line. So you just want to take your time and really get in there. Make sure you got enough paint on your brush. You want to go up the sides, not all the way up the sides, but just a bit. Alright. And then I'm going to wash our brush off, and we're going to take just a little bit of water. And again, we're going to blend out the edge a little bit so that it's not as harsh looking. Because most shadows have a couple of layers to them, a couple of different colors in them. Some have more than others. Alright, so I'm going to do this to the other 3, and then we'll move on. And we're almost finished. Alright, before I go in and do the highlight, I'm going to go back into the top of these, I want to call them bubbles. Whatever. These droplets. And I'm going to just kind of smooth them out a little bit like I did below. And then blend down. Blend, blend, blend. And I'm going to do the same with the white part as well. I'm going to put another layer of white to kind of smooth out the edges, and then, you know, just add a little bit of an extra pop of white there. And I'll get right back. Okay, now we're going to go in and we're going to do the highlight across the top. I'll just do a couple of different variations so you could see what different ones look like. And just for reference, I accidentally did black instead of my dark blue, which I'm kind of glad I did so that you can see the difference, because you can definitely see the difference. I prefer the dark blue on the blue background, but you might prefer black, so that's what it looks like. And so we're just going in and doing a couple of highlights. And I think I might go back underneath and do a little bit more shadowing. But apart from that, we're pretty much done. All right, I'm going to do a little bit more. Okie dokie. So there you have it. Pretty realistic water droplets. And I mean, usually water droplets are a lot smaller than this. These are about the size of my thumbnail, so the smaller they are, the easier it is to make them look realistic. But yeah, I think it's actually easier to do the colored background because the white shows up a little bit better than if you were to just do it on the white background. And typically, you know, you wouldn't just be painting water droplets, you would be painting them usually on a flower petal or a leaf. So, yeah, you'd probably use this method more often than this one, but I thought I would show you both just in case. So, you know, if if you were doing a red background, then instead of the dark blue, you would use more like a maroon color. Or if you were doing green, you would do like a dark foresty green for the shadows, and then some more whitish green for the highlights. But yeah, that's about it. If anybody has any questions, or if I need to explain something a little better, just let me know in the comments. Let me know if you like these videos. Please like and subscribe if you liked it. Feel free to share if you think, you know, one of your friends or family members needs to see how to draw or paint droplets. Let me know if there's any other tutorials that you want me to do. I'd be happy to show you if I know how to do it. Yep. All right, have a great day, guys. Bye.